Hello and welcome back to the Floridaman Gaming. My name is Furion and today we're going to be looking at our season in review on Magic the Gathering Arena. But before we get started, we would like to ask that you like and subscribe to this channel. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers and would love to have you along for the journey. So, taking a look at the most recent season, we were running a series called The Road to Mythic. And we fell short, quite short as a matter of fact, ending up in Platinum 2 at the peak of our run. So we're going to take a quick look back at the season and see if we can't figure out how we got to where we got to and what would have needed to happen for us to make it all the way to Mythic so that as we gear up into this current season, we might have a chance of making it. So first of all, we're going to take a look at our deck choices. We're going to bring over untapped.gg for their stat lines and kind of analyze what went right, what went wrong, and then talk about what I think the key reason is we didn't make our initial goal of driving from bronze all the way to mythic. So pulling up untapped.gg, if you take a look at our stat line over the course of the last season, we went somewhere in the range of 76 and 87. Now this is taking into account a handful of games from the current season and a handful of games from previous seasons. I think the biggest downfall to our not making it where we wanted to make it had mostly to do with the fact that we didn't have enough volume of games played. Most of the games that were on the videos or recorded for the purposes of making the videos for this channel are the only games we played in ranked trying to make this happen. And on the journey, in order to keep it spicy and try and model what I've seen other content creators do, I decided the best way to do this to keep the content entertaining and engaging would be, rather than actually make the run to Mythic as a casual player, to try and do it while utilizing different decks in every video. While I'm not saying I won't try other decks, I'm going to try decks that have a competitive advantage and make the most sense on the climb as opposed to just throwing together various jank strategies and trying to make it work. So taking a look at the deck choices we had, I filtered our decks over the last season by their win rates. Our best win rate deck was the Counterpalooza deck, which I had up on screen on MTG Arena. So let's take a quick look at that deck and what we were trying to accomplish. That deck was taking advantage of the Howlpack Piper, Halana and Elena Partners, and the Yevabruck Caretakers, its main spells, while running a pretty core werewolf archetype to really help us get to the point where we could drop our bombs. It was a fun deck, went 4-1, one of the faster recording sessions I got to do during the course of this run. And overall, probably one of the best. But again, I don't know, given the current state of the alchemy meta, where it would have fallen given a larger play size and sample set. Of the decks that I played, looks like Elf Tribal was one of the ones we played the most games on at 8 and 7. Say Please, which was our exile-based mono white deck, was 14 and 14, so we played 28 total matches on that deck. Angels on High, that one was in the Sprint collection as well as having its own video. In its own video, it went, if I'm not mistaken, 4-1, and then proceeded to go 3-3 when we tried to sprint it through the Platinum phase. Great deck, has a lot of upside potential, really struggles against control decks, but against mirrored aggro decks, clerics decks, it really outshines them in a big way in most instances. The Jund Wolves deck was actually a deck I built for the very first video that I recorded for the channel, only to find out that the microphone I was using was inferior or was muted. I don't remember what the particular case was in that instance, so as a result it never quite made the video. We'll take a quick look at it. It was kind of an amusing deck, trying to run a 3-color strategy. Ended up running it with various number of cards here. Graveyard Trespasser, just because I love that card. A couple of Go Blanks to really assault the graveyards of Lear decks. Curse of Hospitality, because I had a phase where that was my favorite card and was going to play it in every deck I could find a spot for it. And just a number of other core werewolves and pieces along with, the standard Jund land set. Had some success, was a little clunky and slow just because of the sheer volume of mana that we were trying to accommodate for. And yeah, so let's take a quick look at color performance. When playing mono white decks, we were 14 and 14, a 50% win rate. Orzhov decks, we ended up 10 and 8. Mono green, 10 and 8. Golgari 8 and 7, 7 and 10. Interestingly enough, in Gruul, where I feel like we had a lot of success with werewolf decks. I don't remember what other deck we had played that had kind of a rough go of it, but again, a number of things that I've played on camera, off camera. The Make It Rain dragons, that's what dragged down our win rate, trying to be cheeky with some hasted dragons and a treasure mechanic that never quite panned out. So that'll sink a win rate pretty quick. Mono black 4 and 8, and then the Is It pile that you see there was a mill strategy. Overall, not a big enough sample size. If I really wanted to make it to Mythic in this most recent season, I needed to spend a little more time on decks that had a better chance of winning rather than trying to come up with some great new strategy. All the strategies so far have been pretty well fleshed out in the current meta. So if I'm going to make it to Mythic this season, what I think I'm going to have to do is be smarter about my deck choices, put in larger sample sets, and maybe even a couple of longer videos that just kind of showcase those decks in action, and try and make this a series more relatable to people in my situation, which is looking to have some fun, do it, relatively, on a budget, taking some of the better cards you can find, and putting together a couple of good decks that can really make it work rather than trying to squeeze together all the random bits and pieces you've gotten from the reward pack openings and the gold that you use to buy packs or do the jump starts, and then try and make that work. So our best matchups here, we did very well against Is It, 6 and 5, one of our few win rates that were positive there. We did 7 and 5 against Mono Green with the deck choices we had. Everything else, we 3-0'd Mono Blue, 2-0'd a Colorless, and then a couple of 1-0s against some of these tricolor decks. Beat the Simic deck. Our biggest struggle seems to have been against Boros. A lot of the dragon decks out there just really kind of roll us pretty hard. And yeah, so that's just kind of the retrospective, taking a quick look back at this most recent season. We're going to really get into it on this next season. The clapback deck that you see there, it's gone 5 and 8. I've made a number of changes to that. You haven't even seen it on the videos yet. I'm actually going to remodel it after some of what CGB put out on a video for a mono red build, and try and make some minor tweaks to make it a little more viable over a faster mid-range set. Again, it's a little bit more on the mid-range side, but it has potential to be really powerful. So we'll see how it all goes. But with that, just wanted to take a quick look back at the season before getting too deep into it and acknowledge, hey, this was the road to Mythic. Did we make it? Not even close. But that doesn't mean that we're going to stop trying. It just means that we need to reevaluate, pick it up where we left off, and see how far we can climb. This time being a little smarter about how we try to do it. So with that, this is Furion from the Florida Men Gaming, signing off.